What up, y'all? I am at it with another fresh upload as per request. This is Nat Evigaro, fairly hype game. There's a bunch of pretty decent RU wins coming up, so yeah, I bet you can't wait for me to miss all of them. But all things considered, pretty solid matchup here. Nat's going at 1-1 right now, taking a loss to Mop, whereas Evigaro is 2-0. I have been critical of her in the past, however, she has been definitely leveling out her performances with the past few games, and I would say has been pretty impressive overall. And now, of course, it's kind of just like a facet of the tour scene at this point. I will say right now that I do already know which team, or the contents of Nat's team. So we're going to be seeing what we get of that. And Evigaro brings some, I would say, fairly standard looking balance. The use of Machamp here is usually a little interesting, I would say, but it kind of denotes the more bulky offense tend. It's a weird kind of setup. We're going to see, looking at the fact that Stack Attacker revealed what it did, a Spadef variant, something that has gotten discussion and is not commonly co-opted for the OTR set, which has that, immediate presence. It's very dangerous in its own right, but Spadef is pretty solid insofar as being, obviously rather bulky, albeit a bit, type confusing, because Steel Rock is just a weird-ass defensive type that belies a lot of the good qualities of each type in favor of being just sort of okay at neither, or both, however you depend to look on it. But nonetheless, it works well here as a steel that is fire neutral, which is pretty unique to it in this environment, and makes it pretty solid as a not even a mid-ground, but it's like a decent initial switch into this. However, not going for that, going for the Machamp play and getting punished adequately by what can, I'll say is a Specs Goodra. That is Specs damage. And that was kind of what I was trying to get at with this whole thing, because I feel like these Pokemon in particular have, until this point, been addressed more as, like, bulky offense, or not bulky offense choices, rather, more like balanced choices, I would say. And Machamp is, to me, just so quintessential as a bulky offense mon. It's kind of like melding these two things into something that I feel would inevitably encounter pace issues against another player, but I think is somewhat acceptable in this context, because Nat generally doesn't tend to bring teams that really punish that kind of building practice. However, we're going to see the double Stack Attacker as Nat just goes for the kill with Goodra. Honestly, I was expecting almost, I was expecting sort of a mid-ground double from Nat, to be totally honest with you, but it's damage on the table and you would take it, I would say. And at this point, Evigaro, I think, is, after taking that hit with Machamp, sort of, it's incumbent on her to make a double here into what I can't say, but no, she just does go for the Torterra. And it is worth noting, however, that in spite of what I was talking about with the Spadef set, this is not running freaking leftovers, and in fact its Gyro Balls have been pretty darn strong, to the point where I have to assume that it is brave, knowing the Lonely Calcs off that versus Torterra, and potentially a plate, Iron Plate, or I guess, what is the other one? I don't even know. Fuck it. But plate is always better, IMO, so go for that. And Evigaro making these plays in a manner that might suggest either that she's just comfortable with Slowbro taking a fat hit for this and sort of regenerating. Why would I even bother to try to abbreviate like that? That, or that it is Rindoberry, because it hasn't shown an item. There's lots of options here. Rindo is, I feel, a bit dated, honestly. Like, you know, it's cool for reacting to Frizz, and I only bring it up mostly because this team is sort of abysmal versus such things. However, it's more likely, speaking to context, that it'll be something to the effect of a Colberberry or Rocky Helmet. I personally prefer Rocky Helmet because I feel like that's just in line with how I play it, but it could be pretty much whatever. And I will say right now, oh, there we go. Okay, I was gonna say that I felt like Evigaro was instigating sequences that really just sort of allowed her to slowly but surely die off. This is something that will allow her to push forward just a little bit, but that's not gonna be good for her because I think this is a Scarfgon. Looking at the team, I would have to imagine as much, and yeah, it's going to... Ooh, Synth. I don't know if I agree with that Woodhammer. I feel like the better play was Synthing, which would either scout the, safely sort of play into the U-turn, or if it defogs, get the defog off on what has to have been a Scarflygon. Again, like, looking at the context, you can't be this weak to Virizion at all in this metagame. You'd have to at least have some kind of revenge killer, and I mean, it might still be Rose, who's to say, but I feel like it's just untenable to play that way. So I think that being able to synth there and then safely secure your rocks is much more important than killing that Flygon there, and then, especially because a lot of this team is not really bothered by it. Like, what is it doing? It's coming in on Garbodor and U-turning. Like, and I will say right now, if it hasn't been changed, that Garbodor is Protect, so that wouldn't have even been that big of a deal, so I'm iffy on it. However, what is done, and we are seeing the Goodra come back in, and at this point in the game, Stakataka is potentially in range. It did 22 last time, so we'd have to assume with, like, even rolls is within range, so I think it's just going to pick one up here and now. So Evie chooses to fodder off the Machamp, which, golly, imagine a game where Machamp does so little. That is bonkers. But given what has been shown from the Stakataka, I would assume that Nat would come to the conclusion that Metagross is a safe initial switch. It's goodness gracious. Fine, but that said, I would say, oh my goodness, what? Okay, both of those plays to me made very little sense. If not for the weird choice to bring in well, both, because I thought it was incumbent on Evigaro to make a double in order to get some momentum there, because, like, anytime that Blastoise comes in, it's a KO. Anytime that fucking Goodra comes in, it's a KO, and yet they decided to go for the sequence, and now Stakataka is in presumably Draco Meteor range. I'm not sure what... I feel like for this stage in the game, she is being far too passive. Evigaro, that is. And while, yes, Nat, I don't think was at much risk going just hard Metagross there, because with Slowbro on the table, it's not going to be performing as you would hope. It is, unless it was, for whatever reason, Z Electric, which is not a bad set. I've used it a couple times now. But, yeah, it's just so-so right now. And goes to Metagross now, which, fine. I guess, if anything, this resulted in a scenario wherein the Slowbro, or rather, everything has the spikes chasing it, so Stack Attack, it will, when it comes out, assuredly be in Draco Meteor range. Perhaps it was like a 44 was, or rather the 22 at -2 was a high-ass roll. Who's to say? I'm not familiar with the bulk investment on Stack Attacker, but okay, just foddering it off. I don't recognize the value in this, but cool use of Shuckaberry all the same. I do like that item. It's useful not only for opposing Stack Attacker, which to this context is kind of but I just don't know. It's like, well, okay, but you have a hard counter, so why even do that? It's not like maybe it is in service of what is, because I guess I didn't anticipate, or I didn't rather touch upon this possibility. This could be a Scarferous raid. It's possible, albeit improbable, and doing that particular play could potentially set it up to a point where it can clean, and if so, that might do something for it. That was a greedy ass Gudra play. IMO. Again, Metagross was all but useless. The better play in my eyes was simply just foddering off then and there, because its greatest value in this game at that point was a death fodder. So I would have just been mashing into the Slowbro like crazy, seeing if I can get a raise, and thereby, you know, forcing it out of maybe like freaking Noivern range, who's to say, and then I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. But nonetheless, we are getting it, and okay. Fine. Okay. Showing off the set, I guess, but yeah, I don't totally get behind that one at all. However, this has revealed that Slowbro is without the option to touch this Blastoise, really. Going to Scaldless is definitely interesting, and could pay off here, but I don't know. We will be seeing the Blastoise Dark Pulse, getting the necessary damage to leave it in. How many layers of spikes are up? I didn't check. Is this... So... Oop. Gonna do a quickie. Okay, 2 layers of spikes, so it is now going to be in range of 2 Switch-ins KOing it. That's something. But I just don't know. This endgame has become more complex than it needed to be by making that that ostensibly Gudra sack versus the Slowbro. I can't rightfully agree with that, because in the end game, what did Metagross do for that? It ran itself into Slowbro and died, as it would have otherwise in any situation. So I don't know. Bearing all that in mind, there is still hope. BBC Radio 1. Roserade has Roserade shown an item? I believe it hasn't. Synthesis, no item. It could be, and this is a set that I had ran out a couple times before. Be a Koba Berry variant, which, if that's the case, and we aren't, well, here's the thing. Evigaro does not know what this Noivern is yet, because no Z move has been revealed. So there is an expectation on her that this could be a Z variant, in which case it would break through all but any variant of Roserade. If anything, any variant of Roserade that would be concerning itself with freaking KOing a Noivern for here, or even after poison. So I'm not sure exactly what the sequence here is. What I do know is this would be a lot easier if there was a Gudra. I don't know, dude. Ooh, going to the Rose though. And I think that this, I mean, either she's going to, because the double wouldn't do it either. The double would ruin it. So I think that the best odds are, well, rather, the odds that she is going for is playing against the possibility of Hurricane hitting, and ooh, it's dead. That's a life orb. Okay, so there we go. I believe that's the whole game. Yeah. So, interesting set for sure. I would say that I do think that the major turning point in the game was the choice to hard Gudra into the Slowbro as she did. Evigaro kind of just like playing to her best odds there were by side-shocking the Metagross there. And it's not a great look, but you know, what can you do? GG to both. And well, yeah, GG. Alright, congrats to Evigaro, and GG's all around. Hopefully I was a bit more informative than I think I was, and I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.